And now, the special presentation.
I first read The Talented Mr. Ripley in a very bizarre way, which was that years and years ago when I first started writing plays, I just graduated college and I had my first commission to write a play. And the first thing that was ever written about this play was the line, "This play reminds me of the works of Patricia Highsmith." And so I remember thinking, well, I have no idea who this is. I better go and find some books to see what it is that's so reminiscent. And so I came across the story of Tom Ripley, and what a riveting and extraordinary and disturbing read it was. And then quite forgot, to be honest with you. And then nearly 20 years later, Sidney Pollack called me and said, "We've got the rights to The Talented Mr. Ripley. Are you interested?" And I said, "Oh, I love that book. I'll have a look at it again." And as soon as I began to read it, I was originally just hired to write the screenplay. I thought, I'm not letting go of this. You know, this is my story, and I want to...
It's a cautionary tale, and it's about what happens when you give yourself up to be somebody else or project a certain happiness onto other people, which is something I think we're all guilty of, daydreaming about being other people.
I think it's a story about class distinction. I think it's more a story about fitting in and being loved and recognizing that the one person that can make you happy is yourself.
Well, I think the job of the adapter in a movie is to be the broadcaster of the good news of the book. It's like, this is what I loved, this is what was important, this is how it felt to me, to be a passionate enthusiast. And also to try and make the film stand entirely on its own right, so that it has an urgency and an organic quality to itself. It doesn't rely on people knowing the novel. But obviously I was looking for very specific things in a Ripley, and I had made a vow that I wouldn't make the film unless I felt I'd found a Ripley, because this movie is so much about one person's view of the world. He's in every single scene. He is the way into the thematic issues of the film. And I needed an actor who had enormous empathy, sort of natural empathy, because you're asking the audience to inhabit the footsteps, you know, to walk in the steps of somebody who behaved in a very catastrophic and unnerving way.
I think the central challenge of this role was to try and create this person who the audience had sympathy for, or at the very least understood, despite the things that he does. Well, the backstory of the character is somewhat mysterious. I think one of the reasons to not give a lot of that away is because Ripley in many ways is meant to represent the audience. And I think Anthony went to great lengths to spend enough time with the character so that you're exposed to this terrible loneliness that's at the heart of him, and this terror that that's going to be his lot in life. And out of that is born this desperation to reach out to other people in an attempt to give love to them and to have love given in return. But given what he does, given some of the things he does, I think that the central challenge was keeping the audience with Ripley.
When I met Matt, I was so taken with the wisdom he has about the screenplay, the fearlessness he has about the journey he had to go on. And also I discovered as we went along the sense of no pain, no gain, which so obsesses him as an actor. He will die for you every day, and he did.
That's very easy. I think he is quite sure of himself and doesn't need to flaunt himself. He's very private and he's very amicable.
I couldn't think of a better person to collaborate with, and a more honourable example of young American acting.
Dickie Greenleaf?
Who's that?
It's Tom. Tom Ripley.
Tom Ripley?
We were at Princeton together.
Did we know each other?
There aren't many people around in the world who can make Matt Damon feel insecure and plain. And my wife had produced a movie called The Wisdom of Crocodiles. And when I was at home every day, she'd have the dailies and be looking at them, and I was looking over her shoulder and thinking, this guy is interesting. This is an amazing actor. And also this quality that Jude has of a kind of metallic, cruel, he can find that sort of darkness in the light. He's so sunny, such a kind of sun god, and yet there's something tough and interesting and elusive about him.
Dickie's magnetism comes from the fact that he's unapologetic about who he is and what he wants, and does what he wants and expects others to do the same. I think people kind of love the fact that he's, you know, he's not thinking twice about what he's doing. And the trappings of his lifestyle, great boat, great shoes, great ring and watch and sax. I mean, you know, to have that life where everything you look at is just sumptuous is, you know, kind of envious.
Everybody in the film is obsessed with Dickie Greenleaf, much more than they're obsessed with Ripley. Everybody's obsessed. Dickie, Dickie, Dickie is the most spoken word in the screenplay. And so I needed somebody for whom it might be true to say, when he looks at you, it's like the sun shines. When he looks away, it's very, very cold, which is what Gwyneth Paltrow's Marge says of him.
It was so interesting because normally, you know, I react so strongly to a part one way or the other. And when I first read this script, I felt that there was something that really drew me to Marge, but I couldn't figure out exactly what it was, because I felt that she was sort of just sweet, but there maybe wasn't a lot to her. And it was only when I got to Italy and started really rehearsing with Anthony, we started uncovering all these layers, and she became so full to me, and she became such a great role.
Gwyneth so effortlessly summons class and privilege. She so effortlessly summons the period. You know, the great quality she has as an actress, that she's been able to create characters who so much speak of a place or a time.
I think that Marge is the only honest person in the film, in that she's the only person who knows herself and is comfortable with herself, and therefore suspects Tom very quickly.
I feel like she's this tormented and unheard voice in the film saying, he's lying, don't believe him. And she does that so brilliantly. Her journey from being this sunny Gwyneth Paltrow that we sort of know and love at the beginning of this film, gradually getting cooler and cooler and more heartbroken and drier and more brittle. It's such an amazing journey that she goes on. And obviously, I needed her to go all the way through the film, to stay with us right to the very end, and to have that noise of alarm present.
What I like about both the women in the film is that they do sense the truth. I think Meredith's a debutante. She's someone who is trying to emerge from her chrysalis, but she's almost willfully naive, I think, and she's almost wanting to have her heart broken, to have that sort of Therese Raquin reclining on the couch, and something Anthony said to me very early on, which was very helpful to me, that every day for her was like a journal entry, so that she would write, you know, today I met the man I'm going to marry, you know, the sun came through the window and hit his golden hair just as he touched my shoulder, none of which may happen, you know. And I think that happens to a lot of people when they fall in love. They don't actually fall in love with the other person, they fall in love with what that person makes them into. I mean, and the great thing about the way Anthony had structured the character of Meredith is that she came in like a kamikaze, always at the wrong time. And it's sort of important, I think, that the audience thinks, oh my God, not her again.
Tom Ripley, Freddie Miles.
Tom. I mean, hey, if I'm late, think what her husband's saying.
About the role of Freddie, that attracted me was his impact on the story. You know, he comes in, the story changes immediately. Thomas Ripley changes immediately. Everything has to adapt to his presence, you know, and that's kind of the type of character he is. He's a big character, a lot of energy, very powerful character. I think he's nasty to Ripley because Ripley's so obviously so needy and so desperate, and it makes it unnerves Freddie, you know, that who is this guy? He's obviously not of our ilk, so why is he watching them have sex? You know what I mean? Like there's some very, very obvious story points that Freddie is keen enough to see and go, that's not right. There's something wrong here.
Tommy.
It's a pig thing.
And also the fact that he's a man of the truth. You know, he might not like how he goes about getting it or about who he is, but he is a man of the truth.
My favourite scene is when Freddie Miles goes to visit Dickie and Tom Ripley answers the door. I think the tension in that scene is awesome. And you see perhaps for the first time the comeuppance and the possible comeuppance for Tom. And Freddie is chillingly powerful in that scene. You suddenly see that he could squash this guy.
You know, in fact, the only thing that looks like Dickie is you.
I think Gwyneth has a couple scenes that I think are just extraordinarily powerful. To see the ring scene when she confronts him about the rings, I think she's just riveting in that scene.
Marge,
Come,
tell
Marge,
Mr. Greenleaf.
Marge,
I have to tell Mr.
you're being
Greenleaf.
hysterical.
He promised me, I swear, I will never take off this ring.
Stop!
I think my favorite scene in the movie is the Madonna de la Mare scene that takes place. We shot on the island of Ischia, where Anthony shot this amazing sequence of this festival that happens, and it was just so beautiful, and it's so moving what happens in the scene.
It leans very heavily towards the Italian cinema of the period. It's also this contrast between the surface, the benign Dolce Vita surface of this film, the sort of wonderful Mediterranean water, and these lurking undercurrents, volcanic undercurrents, and also just the sense of community that's in that film, a sense of a whole village coming down to be in the movie and to contribute to the movie. It was an exhilarating day of filming for me.
But one shot I really remember, which to me sort of summed up the entire film, was when Ripley was in the apartment, in Dickie's apartment that he had in Rome, and he was shutting the piano lid, and as he did, the shadow of his head actually separated in two, and I just thought that to me summed up the film.
I really did like the jazz club scene, where we sing to a Fall Americano, because that's the first, I don't say anything in that scene, it's just the first time that I'm looking at him, and I'm really just bowled over by him, and I think that whole vibe, that was just a really special few days of shooting, and the energy of that song and the energy of that room, and in Italy with all those extras dancing and jumping up and down. What a key moment it is in Tom's life, you know, it really just, I had goosebumps during that whole sequence.
Music excites me more than anything else, and I felt that it would be fun to try and tell the story almost exclusively through music, so that the whole film in some ways is a musical argument between the characters. It's dynamic, it's interesting, enormous fun.
I worked with a fantastic saxophone teacher in London. It made it so daunting to begin with. He said, I'm going to teach you to read music. And I was like, I don't have time. Just let me play this, teach me to play it. But in fact, in teaching me to read music, it meant I learned it very, very quickly.
It was great fun to go to work every day and get dressed up in those costumes.
And Roth and Gary, who are geniuses in that they created clothes rather than costumes. And I think the girdle is a much maligned article of clothing. I think it does fantastic things for a woman's figure.
In the first half of the movie, when Marge is much more light and open, her clothes are very easy and beachy and sort of 50s wonderful. And then when things start to go wrong, it's like she's building these layers.
In this movie, I feel like Grace Kelly has suddenly walked back out of a Hitchcock film and come into my movie.
I can do a little spin.
Well, if you said to me that today I could go back to Rome and have lunch, I'd go there in a second. If you could say that I could go back and be with my Italian friends and in the country I love more than any other, I'd be there in a second. If you said to me you could go back and reshoot The Talented Mr. Ripley, I'd say not in this lifetime. Because the difficulty of making this movie, the difficulty of taking Ripley into the centers of Naples, of Sicily, of Rome, of Venice, totally insane. I mean, the writers, it's all very well and good for me to write in the screenplay. Ripley is in the Piazza di Spagna. He's alone. He looks down and sees, Meredith and Marge meet up with each other. That's easy to write. Only a madman would try and shoot it. And so the 90 days of being in Italy shooting were as chaotic and barely survived a period of my life as I can remember. But nevertheless, along the way we laughed and we kept together. And it's the I think the blessing of working with the same people is that you can go and be an army together and fight the battles and hopefully win the war.
I would say the moral of the story is look to yourself for happiness and don't project it on others and expect to find the answer in others.
Don't try to be something that you're not, because it's bad for your karma, it's bad for your soul, it's bad for your life. Better to just be yourself, faults and all.
We need to accept ourselves and love ourselves and be happy with who we are, and from there we really can grow into a place of true happiness.